Hi, I'm Andrew Foltz, realtor here in Sarasota, Florida. And if you're thinking about selling your home in Sarasota or Manatee County, I want to save you from making expensive mistakes. So after 16 years in real estate and walking through thousands of homes with buyers, I've realized something, and that's most sellers completely misunderstand how a buyer experiences a home. They think the buyers walk through analyzing every detail, but they don't. And today I'm going to explain what buyers actually notice, what they don't, and how to prepare your home so you make the best possible first impression without wasting thousands of dollars on improvements that probably won't increase what a buyer is willing to pay. Let's start with something that surprises a lot of people. The first showing doesn't happen when someone walks through the door. It happens online. Every buyer is scrolling through dozens, sometimes hundreds of listings before deciding which homes they want to see in person. That means before anyone notices your kitchen, your flooring, your landscaping, they're looking at two things: price and pictures. And if your home is priced correctly, but the photos don't catch someone's attention, they may never schedule a showing. If the photography is great, but the price doesn't make sense, then they're going to scroll past that. So that's why pricing and professional photography are the foundation of every successful listing. Now, let's say your listing catches their attention, they schedule a showing. This is where I think many sellers have the wrong picture in their head. They imagine buyers walking room by room, critiquing everything: cabinet, fixture, every faucet, every piece of trim, every paint color. In reality, that's not really what happens when buyers walk through the front door. They're taking in the home as a whole immediately, and they're asking, does this home feel bright? Does it feel clean? Does it feel open? Does it feel updated? Can I picture myself living here? They're forming an emotional impression before they ever start analyzing individual features. Kitchen is a perfect example. Did the countertops, flooring, lighting, backsplash, appliances all work together? Does the kitchen feel inviting? Does it feel like a place they'd enjoy spending time?
Now, when you walk into a kitchen like this, you take it all in. You say, wow, this is such a pleasant space. It's so neutral. There's nothing jarring, screaming in my face, no crazy backsplash tile, no crazy colors. It's just really cohesive. It's really neutral. It's a really nice, inviting space. A buyer's not wondering, is it MDF? Is it, solid wood? What's the construction of these cabinets? What are the pulls made of? They're just taking it all in as a whole and really just appreciating it. They're taking a sweep through the kitchen, saying this feels good, it looks good, and they're moving on to the next room.
Same thing happens through the rest of the home. Very few buyers are studying, the profile of your crown molding. They're just simply noticing, okay, the home looks good. We've got molding. They're not looking at the cabinet hardware in detail. Does the home look current, not dated? They just want to make sure the house looks cared for. They're not falling in love with individual features. They're falling in love with what all those features create as a whole.
When you're walking into the living room of a home like this, which is styled beautifully and it also has a lot of molding and trim work, and you're taking it in as a whole. But when you really look at the pieces of it separately, maybe they're not the most expensive, but as a whole, it doesn't matter because it really creates a wonderful look, and the buyers are taking that in again as a whole, and they're not analyzing, what type of wood is this, and what's the mitering and things like that. They don't care. It's just really pretty and it's got a lot of molding, and that's really the factor that matters the most.
That's what my interior design background really comes into play, learning how everything works together. So let me give you a real life example. I had a listing with incredible natural light. The house had windows everywhere, but one of the windows all had these heavy drapes and curtains on them. The sellers thought, it adds to the decor. They liked it, but I knew it was hiding one of the home's best features. So before we listed the house, I said, we got to remove the drapes and, the curtains. We didn't remodel anything. We didn't spend thousands of dollars. We just let the natural light become the star of the show, and the house looked brighter, felt larger, more inviting.
So here's an example where the windows and the doors are a very important part of the home and bringing the outdoors in. And it's really important that that feature is showcased. Now, maybe if you live there, you'd probably want some curtains and drapes just for privacy and light management. But when it comes to showing the house, it's really important that the buyer can see that as a very integral part of the architecture and what makes that house special. So we don't want to hide it.
Here's another example. I had sellers, they wanted to replace all their bathroom vanities because they had an older stained wood finish, and that could have cost them thousands of dollars. Instead, I said, why don't we just paint them? And for a fraction of the cost, they look fresh, updated, and when the buyers walk through the home, not one person commented that the vanity should have been replaced because they weren't standing there analyzing the vanity. They were taking in the bathroom as a whole. And it looked clean, it felt updated, and that was enough. Okay, so here's another one. I had a seller who was worried because the home had LVP flooring and it was kind of a lower end. They didn't think it fit the price point of the home. It was a higher end home. But here's what the buyers actually noticed, because the color was actually timeless of that LVP. And it photographed beautifully. It flowed through the whole house. It made the rooms feel bright and cohesive. And not one buyer walked through said, I wish this flooring cost another $20 a square foot. They liked how it felt and how it looked.
So here we have some LVP flooring, and this is in a multi-million-dollar home. And I can tell you it's not the most expensive LVP, but the color's great. I mean, it's going to work with just about everybody's decorating style and colors and whatnot. And when it's decorated and the buyer's in there, they're not worried whether it's $20 or $30 more per square foot. They are just going to say, wow, this is great. This is a color that I can work with, and I appreciate it. And they're moving on from there.
And now let me tell you the biggest mistake I see sellers make. They start making decisions based on what they notice every single day instead of what a buyer notices during a 10, 20-minute showing. Because you've lived in your home for years, you know every scratch, every little repair, every cabinet that sticks, every paint touch-up you've done, every project that you wanted to do, you didn't finish. But buyers don't have that history or that knowledge. They're seeing your home for the very first time. So don't prepare your home for someone who's lived there for 10 years. Prepare it for someone who's walking through for like 10 minutes. Here's where I see people spend money that they just simply don't need to spend. I had one seller invest a fortune in brand new countertops with a full matching counter splash. I mean, they thought it was beautiful. It was certainly expensive, but the pattern was so bold and busy that every buyer who walked through the house said the same thing. They were like, we need to rip that out. Like it's too much going on. Seller spent all that money trying to make the kitchen more valuable, but instead they created something so specific that buyers just rejected it and wanted to replace it.
And here we have what is obviously a very expensive piece of stone countertop, full counter splash, very taste specific, but it's something that is going to limit the pool of people who are going to be attracted to it. Now, it's not to say that you can't do what you want with your own home. You absolutely are entitled to do whatever you want with your home if that's your style. But when you go to sell, it's something to keep in mind that when you make a choice like this, it's going to limit your buyer pool. It's also very expensive. And unfortunately, there's going to be a bunch of buyers that walk in and say, that is just way too much for me. I'm going to have to change that.
Same thing with custom closets. Seller invested in gorgeous solid wood custom closets throughout the home. The craftsmanship was great, obviously, but buyers didn't really care what they cost. It looked like every other closet they'd seen before, like a California closet. Didn't make them want to pay more for the house.
Now, this is an example of a very expensive closet. You can just tell that it's extremely custom and it's very high quality. Everything down to the rods, to the finish work around the bottom by the baseboards. But when it's filled with clothes and when a buyer is coming through to look at it, it's not going to make them want to pay more for the house because in their mind, it's going to look exactly the same as a California closet when it's all filled up, even though obviously it was very expensive.
So that's the difference between the cost and the perceived value. The amount you spend isn't always the amount the buyers perceive. So I'd rather help you spend $500 in the right places than $10,000 in the wrong places. So, okay, with staging, a lot of people think that staging is decorating, but it isn't. Staging isn't really about decorating. It's about presentation. It's about helping the buyers focus on the home instead of your belongings. Sometimes that means removing furniture, rearranging, clearing the countertops, removing your personal photos, opening the blinds, more lighting. The goal isn't to show the buyers how you live. It's to help them imagine how they could live there. And the added bonus, everything that makes your home show better, obviously also makes it photograph better, which brings us right back to where we started, because remember, the first showing happens online. Even the most beautifully staged home isn't going to overcome poor pricing, though. I do want to point that out. And the best results come from pricing, photography, thoughtful staging, and marketing. So before you start replacing things, remodeling, spending thousands, have someone like me walk through your home who understands the psychology of buyers in this market. Sometimes it's not paint or flooring. Sometimes we just need to remove some furniture, take down the blinds, or just leave it exactly as it is. You know, every home is different. My job's not to make you spend money. My job is to help you Spend the money where it matters, save the money, put the most in your pocket. So if you're thinking about selling your home in Sarasota or Manatee County, you'd like honest advice about what buyers actually notice when they walk through your home, I'd love to help. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.